Hey everybody, this is Mr. Storm, and for the next project for your power standard for term 3, your second power standard, what I want you to do is I want you to create an entirely new game from scratch using only assets that you found on the assets store. Now I want these assets to be free. Please do not buy a bunch of assets for this game. I want you to find free assets you can find on the asset store. Now, this game is not going to be commercially available. This is just for this project, so don't get super excited and create a whole brand new game that you want to put on Steam and sell for, $60. That's not what we're going for here. And a lot of the assets that you're going to download, you're not going to even be able to use those assets in a commercial project. I just want you to get used to importing assets that you need for a game and creating a game from scratch using all assets that were created by other people. So I'm here in the asset store, and I all I have to do really to find the assets I'm looking for is click this filter button here and then look for, let's say, characters. First, I want to bring in a new character, and I'm going to set my price to 0 and hit apply. And I'm going to find a character here that I like. Now, with characters, it can be a little bit tricky because sometimes you'll get a character that does not have any animations, there's no movement scripts, anything like that. So, if you download a character that doesn't work, or that you need to modify a little bit, make sure you're paying attention to that stuff. And by now you should be comfortable enough with Unity so that if a character is not working, you can probably figure out why. I'm going to grab this guy here, this male character. And if I look here on Show More, let's see, it has animations, an animator controller, simple movement script included. That's good. I want that. Prefabs. Beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to grab this guy and bring him in and click Import. And it shouldn't take too long. Okay, keep going, keep it going. All right, now I have this new folder called Super Saiyan Character Pack, free sample. I'm going to go back to my scene view. And first I need a place for my character to fall onto, like a place for him to run around on. So I'm going to create a new 3D object. I'm going to create a plane. And then it's going to be just basic white for now. I can just change the color of the terrain. Let's go into create a new folder, call this materials. I'll probably put a texture on that in a little bit, but I'm just going to make this right now so we're not running around on a white plane. And a new material, and I'm going to set this to floor, and I will change the color to some kind of cool, I don't know, a dark greenish. There we go. And then I'll drag that material there so that it's a little easier to look at. Okay, and then I'm going to go to my new character pack that I just downloaded and take a look at the folder. So I have animations, animator controller, materials, models, prefabs, scenes, scripts, textures, all that stuff. I'm going to go to prefabs, and let's see, high quality, and bring this guy in here. Now I went with the let me show you. I went with the simple movement prefab because if I went with the base, actually let me try that first real quick. Let me do the base. Go into base, high quality, and bring him in. It looks the same, but notice that there aren't as many components here attached to it. With the other one, I had my animator, my rigid body, a collider, I had a movement script, I had all that attached to it. So make sure you're selecting the right thing. And again, all the assets package you download, they're all going to be different, and so you're not going to probably see the same folders I am. I'm going to bring him in. So now I have my capsule collider, which is covering the whole character. I have my animator. I have a simple character control script, and I have a rigid body. So if I hit play, I should now be able to, oh, my camera. I need to set my camera as a child of my character. So main character, child, and I need to zero out my camera and bring it into a place where I can actually see what I'm looking at. I'm going to zoom it out just a little bit so it's not so snug against him, and I'm going to rotate it down. Oh, That's position. Rotate it not side by side. Not panning left and right. All right, rotate it down just a little bit and maybe bring it a little bit closer and up. Okay, that's fine. And now I should be able to run around. Yay. I can run around with my character and jump. Probably even crouch. No. Does this character not have a crouch? Okay, whatever. But now I have a character. Cool. Now, for this project, you don't have to create a third-person game like I just did. You can actually bring in a first-person controller if you want. I just wanted to show you how to bring in other characters. All right, let's go back to the asset store. Let's find something new called a Skybox. We haven't even talked about Skyboxes yet. So let's see, environments, and let's actually type Skybox. And, oh, come on, not that one. That one doesn't really match the tone of my game. All right, let's go back. A cartoon gradient skybox? That's weird. I don't want that. Let's get out of here. Shrink it down. Let's find a cool skybox that looks a lot better for the style of game I'm going for. Stars, autumn. These are all landscapes and environments. I want to filter it again. Let's go all assets, skybox. There we go. That's a little bit better. Free skybox, fantasy. Fantasy looks cool. Let's do the fantasy one. I'm going to download this one and import. And again, you're just going to have to play around and find assets that match whatever kind of game you're trying to make. And please let me reiterate, you do not need to create a third-person game. You can create a fighting game, you can create a flying game with an airplane, you can create really whatever you want. I just want you to learn how to import assets from the asset store and create something cool. All right, I'll go back to my scene. Now, if we look at the new folder I have now, I have Fantasy Skybox free, and there's a bunch of stuff in here. Now, applying a new Skybox is a little bit different, because look, this thing right here, this is a Skybox, but there's no game object for it. But we want to change this so it looks different. What we have to do is we have to go up here to Window, and Rendering, and Lighting Settings. And we have this option for Skybox here. And it's actually just a material. So if I click on my materials, I can see I have a couple things in here. I want to grab this Sunny 1B and drop that in a default Skybox. And now you can see it instantaneously changes to this cool looking Skybox. Let me play the game and see what that sky looks like now. Oh, that looks way cooler. That looks way better than it did before. And it's, you know, it's not the best texture, but again, I got it for free. So I'm not going to complain too much about it. Okay. So that's good there. My camera's probably a little bit too close, but whatever. I'll play around with it later. Now I want a texture for my grass because I remember I just put that green material on there. So I'm going to go back to my asset store and I'm going to find all assets 3D. Let's go to environments again. And actually, no, I'm going to just go all assets and just type what I'm looking for. Grass. Okay, so this is seamless, game ready seamless texture package. And I actually don't want a realistic grass asset. So I'm going to go back to textures and see what I can find there. Let's set the price down to apply. All right. And let's find a cool cartoony grass, a cartoonish looking grass. That might be, oh, that's cool. Let's do this one. Let's go in and do hand-painted textures because I want this green grass texture here. Grab that. It's going to download. Now, it's going to take longer, or it's probably going to take longer to download textures and import them if you're using a slower computer. So don't be frustrated if you're sitting here all day, you know, looking for or waiting for this stuff to import. It's, you know, it happens. Okay, so now let's see, where are my hand-painted textures? There we go. I have grass 1 and grass 2. This grass 1 has a bunch of cool stuff in it, so I'll drop that in. That's cool. I actually want to change, I want to use a material instead, which I just created a new material by dragging that texture onto the plane. If I select a material, I can change the tiling settings to make it 10 by 10, so it looks a little bit different. I actually want to change that 5 by 5. Let's see what that looks like. That looks a little better. Maybe try that grass that doesn't have all the what looks like colored rocks in there. So let's go back to my textures and apply that grass. And let's change the tiling setting on this material to 10 by 10. Oh no, that's the, is that the one? Let's go back. Materials grass 2. Yeah, 10 by 10. Yeah. Is there a secondary map on this thing? Nope, apparently not. Let's try 100. I'm not really seeing any changes on that texture, but that's okay. Let's try this out. That looks good enough for a grass texture, especially since, again, these are all free assets. So now I can kind of expand this out. I can take this plane and I can duplicate. Now, when we're duplicating objects and moving them around in 3D, one really handy tool that I like to use is I like to create a snap setting that fits for my game. So if I go to edit and snap settings, like I just did, I have this snap set to 0.5 on the X, 0.5 on the Y, and 0.5 on the Z. What that means is if I were to create, let's exit out of this window. If I were to create a duplicate of this plane, which I just did, I just hit Control D and hold Control while I drag across, notice that my position on the X is going up by 0.5 as I drag. That will allow me to snap this perfectly against the other plane there, right? It's exactly at 10. If I were to not hold control and just slide, it lets me slide it kind of naturally and I get more random values, and it might be more difficult to see if I'm snapping it perfectly against it. So Control Z, let's snap it exactly where I want it. And then when I look at it, deselect there, notice that it is pretty much seamless and perfect. So if I were to play, I should be able to, and there is a little bit of a line there, but I should be okay. All right, beautiful. And that's pretty much it. I mean, you're just finding textures, finding materials, finding characters, maybe a skybox, maybe some models. Let's bring in a model just to see what that looks like. 3D assets. Let's go props. Let's find a cool prop. I'm going to hit the price to 0. And let's see. Realistic furniture, maybe some food. Food's cool. Low poly survival. Ooh, I like this. I'm going to grab this guy. I want to put a tent and a campsite into my game for my guy to play around with. I'm going to hit import. Alrighty. And it's going to take its time to import that asset package into Unity. Okay, beautiful. I'm going to go back to my scene view and I'm going to find that new asset package that I have. I believe it's this broken vector folder here. Low poly shaders, low poly survival essentials. And let's go to prefabs. Ooh, look at all of these. Cool. Where's that tent that I was looking at? Oh, there it is. If I bring that in, boom, look at that. Perfect. Right away, I can just grab new assets and drag them right in here. Let's bring that up so I can see the thing. Some rocks. Let's bring in a cool oak tree. Man, and see, this is why I love, I'm going to bring an axe in by the oak tree. This is why I love assets in Unity, because you can very quickly throw a game together using assets you find on the asset store. So now I have this. I have an axe there. I have a cool campsite that I can look at, a tent that I can go in, and it looks like everything just kind of crashed. So I'm going to stop playing my game. All right. So using those concepts, using the idea of bringing in assets that you find for free on the asset store, and kind of popping stuff in, create a game. And now this doesn't have to be a game that actually does anything. Just maybe create a cool game environment with some artwork that all kind of looks like it works together, with a character that looks like it belongs in that world, and get it to where you can move around. If it's a space shooting game where you're piloting a spaceship, make sure I can fly the spaceship around, maybe pop some enemies in there. Whatever you want to do. If you want to just create another racing game but use a different car model and maybe make it an indoor track as opposed to outdoor, or you want to create a first person shooter that's all inside buildings, stuff like that. Whatever you want to do. And again, you can find all this stuff in the asset store. There are tons of free things in the asset store that you can find. um, look, there's some cars in here, some vehicles that we can bring in. That's taking a while. There we go. I can give my dude a cool car, whatever. I mean, just play around with it. Have fun. I'm going to stop rambling and let you get started because I'm sure you're excited too. Please let me know if you have any questions, or if you made a mistake, or you don't know how to import specific assets or whatever, and I'll come over and help you figure it out. Again, because this is kind of a wild project and you're all going to be using way different assets than each other, um, some of these assets are gonna work better than others. It's best just to play around and see what you can figure out. But I'm gonna stop rambling here and I'm gonna let you get started. Thank you for paying attention, and I'll see you next time.